Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Natchez Parish School Board, December 16th, 2021, 5 p.m. Meeting. Need you to silence all of your cell phones or anything that will interrupt our decorum of our meeting. And if you have any discussion of any agenda item, I think there's a paper on the back that you need to fill out and send toward the front so we can recognize you. Our invocation is going to come from Mr. Eugene Garner, and our Pledge of Allegiance is going to come from Mr. Bill McTwire.
Anybody else? Father, we just come to you this afternoon and we ask you to bless this meeting, Father, and bless because the seasons and all that are made here, Father. And as we go through this time of celebration, Father, we pray that you'll have your hands upon each one of the students and faculty and staff as they travel to the different family places and all, Lord. Bring them back safe and all. So we ask it all in your mighty name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Camille,
Mr. Dancy.
Here.
Mr. McGuire.
Here.
Mr. Benefield.
Here.
Mr. Garner.
Here.
Mr. Harris.
Present.
Mrs. Guidros. Here. Mrs. Broadway.
Here.
Mrs. McGaskey.
Here.
Ms. Palmer.
Here.
Ms. Phelps.
Here.
And Ms. Bell. We have a quorum.
thank you, Ms. Rebels. Superintendent Eloy.
I have no updates.
All right. Thank you for our people who came, pastors with a purpose. You all have looked at our consent agenda. Is there any questions, any comment concerning that? If not, it's been offered by Mr. McTwire.
I'll second.
Seconded by Ms. Broadway. Any further discussions? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Nay. Ayes have it. All right.
There are no updates to any of our informational reports.
All right. Thank you so very much. Mr. Russ Daniels.
Item 7A, permission to advertise bids for school board land for hunting. And we talked about that in committee meeting, and we're going to entertain getting some of that information together for the meeting.
So
Do we need to vote on that
tabling
tonight?
that, or we need to vote?
We need to vote on it tonight.
Yeah.
I'll offer just an end.
Second.
Okay, it's been offered by Mr. Garner and seconded by Ms. Phelps. Any further comments or questions? Roll call vote, please.
Okay, give me the motion and the second again, please.
So motion to grant permission for the advertisement of leasing school board land for hunting.
Okay, and it was Mr. Garner and
Yes.
who seconded?
And Ms. Phelps.
Yourself.
Mr. Dancy.
Yes.
Mr. McGuire.
Yes.
Mr. Benefield.
Yes.
Mr. Garner.
Yes.
Mr. Harris.
Yes.
Mrs. Guidros.
Yes.
Mrs. Broadway.
Yes.
Ms. McGaskey.
Yes.
Ms. Palmer.
Yes.
And Ms. Phelps.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Item 7B, privatizing lawn care. And we discussed that in committee meeting, and I will offer that.
I second.
Okay, it's been offered by Mr. Danzy, seconded by Mr. McTwire. Any further questions, any comments?
Yes, only one.
Okay.
Mr. Lee, can you keep us updated as the year unfolds next year as to how that's moving forward and any kind of problems that they may face that we can make easier and streamline that process and reduce the billing process?
Oh, that'd be great, yes, I definitely will do that. And also, once again, also we're keeping all our current equipment in storage if we ever need to redeploy, so yeah, that'd be great.
Thank you, sir.
Be great.
Will Mr. Shirley be the one that keeps an eye on all that?
Yes, he and I both. And Dr. Eloy drives by 2 of the schools every morning. I have to hear about it from him, so I'm gonna make him happy bird. But yes, we'll all keep an eye on it, and all the principals as well.
So cut those on Monday.
What's that?
Cut those on Monday.
I think it's Sunday night, and then it'll be fine.
Item 7C, approve
We need to vote.
Oh, I'm sorry. Excuse me.
Roll call. Thank you.
Mr. Dancy?
Yes.
Mr. Matoir?
Yes.
Mr. Benefield?
Yes.
Mr. Garner?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mrs. Guidry?
Yes.
Mrs. Broadway?
Yes.
Mrs. McGaskey?
Yes.
Ms. Palmer?
Yes.
And Ms. Phelps?
Yes.
And Ms. Bell?
Yes.
Item 7C, approve winning bid for timber on the contract, and I'll offer that.
I said.
Been offered by Mr. Danzy, second by Ms. Palmer. Any questions, any comments? Roll call vote. All right.
We're on
See,
and the offer in the second. Offer was Mr. Dancy, second was Ms. Palmer.
yes.
Yes.
Mr. Dancy?
Yes.
Mr. Matoir?
Yes.
Mr. Benefield?
Yes.
Mr. Garner?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mrs. Guidry?
Yes.
Mrs. Broadway?
Yes.
Mrs. McGaskey?
Yes.
Ms. Palmer?
Yes.
Ms. Phelps?
Yes.
And Ms. Bell?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Item 7D, distribution for one-time MFP appropriations to all personnel. That motion is to approve one-time MFP appropriation $583 for certified personnel and $300 for all other support personnel for January 2022.
I'll second.
And offered by Mr. Matoir, second by Ms. Beverly Broadway. Any questions or any comments?
This will include all other personnel. When you say all other personnel, maintenance and every,
Yep. Certified personnel, all the certified teachers or any of the certified, they're at $583, and all other personnel are at $300.
all other personnel, is that non-certified teachers?
Yes, ma'am, it's everybody.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions or comments? Roll call vote.
Mr. Dancy?
Yes.
Mr. Matoir?
Yes.
Mr. Benefield?
Yes.
Mr. Garner?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mrs. Guidry?
Yes.
Mrs. Broadway?
Yes.
Mrs. McGaskey?
Yes.
Ms. Palmer?
Yes.
Ms. Phelps?
Yes.
Ms. Bell?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Item 7E, request to approve new pay scale for school food service. We discussed that in committee.
I'll second.
It's been offered by Ms. Palmer and been seconded by Mr. Garner. Any further questions or comments?
Its effective date is July 1st. Let's get that in the minutes, 2022.
Thank you so much. All right, roll call vote. Ms. Palmer, offered, and Mr. Garner. seconded.
Mr. Dancy?
Yes.
Mr. Matoir?
Yes.
Mr. Benefield?
Yes.
Mr. Garner?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mrs. Guidry?
Yes.
Mrs. Broadway?
Yes.
Mrs. McGaskey?
Yes.
Ms. Palmer?
Yes.
Ms. Phelps?
Yes.
And Mrs. Bell?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Item number 7F, maintenance job descriptions and salary schedule. Motion to approve job descriptions and adjusted pay scale for maintenance department effective January 3rd, 2022. I'll offer that.
Second.
It's been offered by Mr. Danzig, seconded Mr. McFly. Any other questions or comments?
Yes, just only one, and we didn't really talk about this specifically, Mr. Shirley, but, will there be a mid-year review? that
Yes,
you
sir.
can- That
Yes,
you
sir.
can
We're
bring back to the
actually-
board on the step process?
Yes, sir. What we're actually doing is we're gonna implement an evaluation process, and it will be done every 6 months. It just won't be done 6 months and then come in, it's gonna be done every 6 months.
Yes.
So we'll be able to present that to you.
Thank you.
And my understanding is there's gonna be training provided in specific
Yes,
areas of
ma'am.
maintenance.
Yes, ma'am, there will
So
be.
we have more certified persons employed.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Anything else?
Roll call vote.
Mr. Dancy?
Yes.
Mr. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Garner?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mrs. Deidro?
Yes.
Mrs. Broadway?
Yes.
Mrs. McGaskey?
Yes.
Ms. Palmer?
Yes.
Ms. Phelps?
Yes.
And Ms. Bell?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Before we move forward, I don't remember hearing who offered the motion.
I offered the
Mr. Dancy and
Okay.
Mr.
I
Garner.
did offer the
Okay.
motion.
Thank
Well,
you.
in fact, I kind of read it, so that's probably the reason you didn't. I read it and then offered the
Okay,
motion.
okay, thank you, I just wanna make sure.
Thank you so much.
That concludes finance.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Dancy. Personnel, Ms. Linda, please. Well,
The amendment or the other position?
yeah, let's take Ms. Bell first, because I think it's a recruiting discussion.
Right. Is she gonna come up?
Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Oh, I had a question to ask you.
Yes, ma'am.
On August 5th, we received a letter to attend the new teachers orientation meeting. Would you by any chance have, the attendance of the new teachers that attended that meeting?
I do, I have the sign-in sheet.
Okay, and would you have the breakdown of the demographics of the new hires
I do.
on that day? Would you provide it for the board to
Tonight?
see? No, not tonight.
Oh, yes, I can.
Thank you. That's it.
All right. Amendment job description for, grant manager.
Yes. So. As you know, we already have a grant writer,
Right.
but we are changing it, we're making it better for us in HR. So the additional things are at the bottom. If you look at yours, I kind of kept it separate so you could see what we're adding. So this person is going to do what's stated here. They're going to work with the uncertified staff. They're going to encourage them to do what they need to do. They're going to follow up. They're going to help us when we place them in school settings. So when that happens, we have to have a mentor. We have to have a mentor who has credentials to be a mentor. And if they don't, there's a waiver in place. We have to fill out a form and send it to the State Department so that the mentors can get paid as well as the residents. We have to follow up to see that everything is in place, and all of these things just require an additional person. So if you look at the things up here, one of the things that's listed would also be the certification process. I brought an example, well, I brought two. Could you put that up for me, please?
Yes, ma'am.
To show some of the things that are required to fill out the paperwork. It seems like a very simple thing. I would like to say it is a very simple thing, but it really is not, apparently. The forms vary from 1 page to 6 page, and there are 21 different forms. The one that we deal with the most would be a teaching authorization. That would be required of substitute teachers, day-to-day subs. These forms ask for specific things. The required documents are necessary. The paperwork needs to be complete. Test scores are required. The practice scores, transcripts are required in some cases. The fees change. The forms change. Sometimes employees want to add a new name. Sometimes employees want to retrieve their old name. Sometimes they get more credentials. So there are many reasons an employee would want to get the certification stuff done. The process takes up to 60 days. So if you turn in information, or if one turns in information in August, and one thing is wrong, they didn't sign something, if they didn't put the right name, and believe it or not, sometimes they don't put their name, or they spell their name wrong, or they don't sign it, or they don't include a driver's license, or anything that's wrong, if they don't include the right fees, it's kicked back. And so that up to 60-day process starts over. And so we need a person to just stick with that. Right now, we're using 3 people. It goes to Ms. Nolly, and then it comes to me, and then Ms. Shield submits it. And then if there's an issue, we all have to kind of go back through it to figure out what's wrong. And unfortunately, sometimes the issue is with the State Department. They never admit it, but then we have to prove that they made the mistake. And this whole process sometimes takes a couple of weeks. I know it sounds like it shouldn't, but it does. So for that reason, we want to add these responsibilities to the grant writer. And that's why I'm here tonight.
We need a motion on this particular item.
I move to approve the amended job description for grant manager.
Second.
Do you have any questions about it? I
I
don't want to read it.
We'll get to it right later.
Okay.
A motion by Ms. Phelps, second by Ms. McGaskey. Any further questions or anything? Go ahead.
Got 2. On the agenda, it says grant manager. On the job description, it says grant administrator. We need to have clarification on that. Second is, how is this position going to be paid?
Okay, so, since you brought that up, the grant manager's already with us.
That's correct.
Esther is going to pay for 50%. So it's really going to save some money.
Wait now, so we're shopping to save money?
Well, that may be how you look at it. I'm looking at getting some help in HR so that we can get our people
I
what they
understand this,
need.
babe, but we
So,
do need to
clear up
deal with the manager.
that language.
Grant administrator, I believe, is the
Yes.
specific term.
Yeah,
So,
so-
grant administrator.
Yes.
Do we need to make a motion to change this agenda item? I'm just asking.
Do we need to amend it to state that?
Yeah, you
I
can
think
change the
we
motion.
should,
I think we should.
Okay.
to grant administrator.
So I withdraw my motion and amend it to motion to approve amended job description for grant administrator.
Second.
Okay. The motion by Ms. Phelps and second by Ms. McGaskey. Okay. Any other questions, any other comments?
I'm just proud to see that, part of the duties is quite a few listed here for this administrator. They will have, some persons working with them, in order for them to be able to,
We're all still going to be doing parts of it. We need a person, well, I know we'll benefit from having a person to kind of stick with it a little bit more.
okay.
So
Follow
yes, ma'am,
up.
they won't do it all. This
Yes.
takes all of us to do it.
Yes,
Because like I
this is
said,
what-
it could be one simple thing.
Okay.
The GPA may not be right. Well,
Mhm.
it's specific. It tells you what it has to be, but they don't always do it.
Okay, because it's quite extensive,
It is.
responsibilities here. And I'm so happy to see that they're gonna be working specifically with the uncertified teachers. And that will surely give them, incentive to work towards, more to work towards, obtaining the certification. Because we do need to work with them and try to help them as much as possible, because they do need, that assistance in those areas. And surely I hope that we'll be able to look, towards helping them to get a little bit more money, give them an incentive to stay on board with us.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
these are the
need it.
things, that we've asked for, so thank you, Ms. Baker.
So again, this is not a new position, this is
We're
just,
amending
responsibility, being added. So we amended.
I originally brought the grant administrator forward. I've removed the FEMA responsibilities. We found a lady who used to work with FEMA, and we're allowing her to manage our FEMA responsibilities. That greatly reduces the stress on this position, so we can easily add these responsibilities.
Okay. Any
So
further-
this is the new lookup.
Any further comments or? All right. Roll call vote.
Mr. Danzy?
Yes.
Mr. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Beneville?
Yes.
Mr. Garner?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mrs. Gedros?
Yes.
Mrs. Broadway?
Yes.
Mrs. McGaskey?
Yes.
Mrs. Palmer?
Yes.
Ms. Phelps?
Yes.
And Ms. Bell?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Executive report?
Okay. Item 9A, Superintendent Contract Extension. And I move that we extend Dr. Eloy's contract through December 31st, 2024. Also allowing the 2% step increases that he was allotted in the contract.
I will second that motion.
Can you give me an effective date of that 2%?
Making that retrogressive.
Retrogressive
what?
to his,
I think they want to go back to October. Is
Go
that
back to
correct?
October?
Is that correct?
Yes, whenever the review was.
Was the review in October though? I'm thinking it was before that.
Let's just make sure about that.
I'd have to look at when that data was released.
We actually did the review prior to that, but the data was released in October. So we're gonna have to make a decision on when we.
I need an effective
We need to
date.
anchor it right now. So whatever date that is, we choose.
Yeah, because before we can do the
It
motion.
needs to be in the motion.
That's
Yeah.
correct.
Okay. So,
October 1st?
October
so
1st.
I amend my motion to approve Dr. Eloy's contract extension through December 31st, 2024, retroactive to October 1st, 2021.
For the 2%. 2%. Thank you.
2% to the base, right?
And I'll second.
Okay, then motion by Ms.
Mr. Garner had already said.
Okay, then motion by Ms. Phelps, second by Mr. Corner. Any questions, any comments?
What was the revision to the date?
October 1st, 2021.
All right, roll call vote.
Mr. Danzy?
Yes.
Mr. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Benefield?
Yes.
Mr. Garner?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mrs. Gedros?
Yes.
Mrs. Broadway?
Yes.
Mrs. McGaskey?
Yes.
Ms. Palmer?
Yes.
Ms. Phelps?
Yes.
And Ms. Bell?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Okay, item 9B, purchasing policy. Dr. Eloy.
We are tabling that until January,
Okay.
but all the DJE policies, yeah.
This motion is table to January.
Okay.
All those.
I move that we table it to January.
Second.
All right, motion by Ms. Phelps, second by Ms. Palmer. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Ayes have it.
Okay, item 9C, NPSB bids and quotations policy.
Same.
Okay, I move that we table that.
Like any other ones that we can take up to table?
No,
I think
that's the only one.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, then, motion by Ms. Phelps, second by Ms. Palmer. Any questions, any comments? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Ayes have it.
Okay, item 9D, consent of MOU with BIPSI. And you'll see that it's attached, and I move that we accept it.
Second.
All right, motion by Ms. Phelps.
Second.
Second by Ms. Palmer. Second by Ms. Palmer. Any questions, any comments?
Yes.
Can
Only one.
Go ahead.
Mr. Gaskey.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
may I get some clarification, in regards to MOU with,
Mhm.
All this is we already have an MOU with CLTCC. They're in the midst of transitioning, and in the midst of that transitioning, we're starting to do some dual enrollment with BIPSI already. And so this allows us to continue that relationship.
okay.
And it's a great partnership.
It is.
I'm told in agreement, I just wanted to know.
Yeah, yeah. Mr. Benefit.
We have one of the bullets, responsibility of BIPSI is, implement the data systems to identify and enroll our high school students and provide documentation to Maddox Parish School in a timely manner. Can you let us know in January what that timely manner would look like?
I will get an exact timeline on that. I do know that so far in our agreements with both NSU, CLTCC, and BIPSI, it's usually we're getting information when we ask for it. We're maybe waiting 24 hours.
That's perfect. No more questions for me, Mr. Harris.
All All right, let me get a roll call for
Mr. Dancy?
Yes.
Mr. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Benefield?
Yes.
Mr. Garner?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mrs. Deidro?
Yes.
Mrs. Broadway?
Yes.
Mrs. McGaskey?
Yes.
Ms. Palmer?
Yes.
Ms. Phelps?
Yes.
And Ms. Bell?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Item 9E, Mental Health Committee, Ms. Bell and Ms. McGaskey.
This is an initiative. I really didn't want to put it in, as a voting matter, as it is an initiative that both Ms. McGaskey and I are working on. Ms. McGaskey, you weren't here, but we received a letter from Senator Bill Cassidy, or Dr. Bill Cassidy, and if anybody would like to receive a copy of the letter, I'll be more than happy to forward it to you. But one of the concerns that we brought about was that when a person dies in our community, 5 people are deeply affected by that person's death. And we recently had we had to bury one of our students from the NPTCC school that I actually taught at last year. And I attended the funeral on Saturday. So his letter came in such a timely manner. And in the letter, he expresses his candor on how, for his words, I can't zoom in on it right now, but the inadequate care that students in disenfranchised communities are receiving. So I wanted the community to be aware that we do have legislators on the federal, state, and school board level that are working to get care as far as mental health is concerned.
I'm totally in agreement with the statement just made by Ms. Bell, and if y'all feel comfortable, because I would really like to have some further research and discussion on it before we actually vote, because I want to make sure that we are in a position where we are providing not just help for the students, but for our employees also. But we have issues where I'm really interested in getting mentoring into the schools. I've had a discussion before with Reverend Harris about that. It's needed because of all the violence that is transpired in our communities. There's a lot of issues with anger that is not being addressed with students. And they've gone through a lot in reference to dealing with the devastation caused by COVID-19. And I just want to make sure there is sufficient counseling afforded provided to those students in need. So I think that is very, very much needed. We need to have people in place that can identify and have understanding to deal with our student population at large.
I did get an opportunity to speak with Senator Cassidy. He did tell me that he had a young lady who's spearheading a initiative, getting more monies to our school districts, and that he would send those that communication, and also send someone down to help bring it together so that we can get those fundings. So I think it's an initiative that's very much needed for our community. So, but I think if we would just, again, if you two will work on that, along with our people that we already have in place, especially when we talk about funding. And that's what he let me know, that there was funding for these this initiative. Any other?
I wanted to add, I found this sentence where he said that our current mental health system is a patchwork of programs and policies which lack coordination. That, coming from a legislative level, tells me a lot about his character, because there are a lot of patches in our community. There are places that are untouched that, you know, as a mental health advocate, we talk about anger management and conflict resolution. Anger can be expressed outwardly, but when anger is expressed inwardly, it turns into depression. Some of our kids are depressed, some of our teachers are depressed. I spoke to a teacher during the Christmas festival parade, and honestly, she was just returning because she quit. We're losing teachers, and you know that's not talked about. So I asked for the board to support this initiative or support this committee.
Okay. Item 9F, GBN policy, Dr. Ely.
Yeah, this is, again, a policy that was brought to our attention by John Geis, who's one of our attorneys. And he just said that we need to make our policy in line with Act 1 because this was one kind of holdover from an older policy. And he suggested that I take the Ouachita Parish policy and put that in there. And it really just puts us in line with Act 1. So
I move that we approve the changes to the NPSB policy GBN section school employees.
I'll second.
Been motion by Ms. Phelps and seconded by Ms. Rawway. Any further questions or comments? Okay, roll call vote.
Mr. Dancy?
Yes.
Mr. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Benefield?
Yes.
Mr. Garner?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mrs. Guidros?
Yes.
Mrs. Broadway?
Yes.
Mrs. McGaskey?
Yes.
Ms. Palmer?
Yes.
Ms. Phelps?
Yes.
And Ms. Bell?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Okay, item 9G, policy committee, Ms. Bell.
I gave a pretty much thorough background on the policy committee that is already a standing committee. A vote for this committee is not needed.
So can I give an update, something that occurred in the past few days that's germane to this? Dr. Pope, Dr. Janet Pope contacted me in regards to this because she's doing a lot of work with policy and she would like to speak to the board about some more stuff in regards to policy and how we can make some of the shifts y'all have been talking about. She'd like to come to the January meeting if that's something that y'all would be interested in.
Yes. Awesome. I've communicated with her and have begged for her help in any workshops that she may hold in Baton Rouge. I'm willing to drive.
Well, she'll come to us.
Awesome.
Okay, item 9H, 2022 board meeting calendar.
And Ms. Kanika provided you all with option 3, which is not on board docs, but it came from the discussion on Tuesday's meeting. So if you look at it, and Mr. Kozak, you bring up option 2. Option 3 is taking option 2 and making those suggestions that I think Mr. Benefield and some others made on Tuesday.
So is this going to just be a discussion or are we gonna, motion item? Because, yeah, because it is saying that's the only thing.
I offer that we accept option 3 as the board members meeting.
Second.
All right. Been motion by Mr. McGuire, second by Mr. Danzig. Any further comments or questions?
Can we get that out to the media pretty quickly? Because that's a, okay.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Nay. Ayes have it.
Ms. Kanika, do you mind sending it to Ms. Paris so she can send it to everybody?
Okay, item 9I, MOU between NPSO and NPSB truancy
And
detail.
that's Ms. Dubois.
May I ask a question before we move on to that item? It indicated here on the calendar that number 8, is that a citywide election day for, do you all know?
That's
November?
That's everybody was sitting around this table.
That's everybody.
Oh, that's us. Oh, I'm so sorry. I wasn't aware of the date. I knew it was coming up. We're on that. Thank you. You know, I missed Tuesday, so I'm playing catch up. That's for the board members. Oh, okay.
Ms. Dorothy, Ms. McGaskey, I'm sorry. What we decided was, the reason I left it on there is because y'all said y'all wanted to address that as we got a little closer to it as to whether or not we would have a committee meeting on a different day. So that's why it's still on there, and it's in red, because it's tentative to, it's subject to change.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So, then we may come back to November and do something different.
Definitely.
Probably around
Kinda
August, I would
difficult.
imagine y'all wanna revisit that one.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so we added this one on, this MOU between NPS, Natchez Parish Sheriff's Office and Natchez Parish School Board. And I'll give you a little background on the truancy. When Sheriff Jones was here, we had a truancy officer that he paid for. And she would go out and find kids that I couldn't find, or the principals couldn't find, schools couldn't find. Or if we had a parent that would call in and say, hey, I can't make my child go to school, I need some help. So she would go and she would help us out with that. When Sheriff Wright was elected sheriff, he did away with the truancy officer. So at this point right now, we do not have a truancy officer. You're looking at it right here. But my problem is, I have parents and kids too that I cannot locate, I cannot find. If I can find them and locate them, I can work with them. But if I can't find them, none of the numbers work, none of the contact information is correct. I can't find them, there's nothing I can do. In addition to that, I get calls pretty much weekly from parents who are really, really trying their best. And it's, Miss Anita, we need some help. I cannot make my 15-year-old son go to school. I had one in court Tuesday that I've been trying to help her. She has a 15-year-old daughter. She told the judge, she said, Miss Anita's trying to help me. She will not get up and go to school. She said, I have to go to work. I leave. She has 75 absences. Okay? So Judge Sylvester told her, she goes, well, you know what? Do we need to have a deputy go and bring her to school every morning? Because we could do that. Well, we're about to be able to do that, I hope, if you'll approve this MOU for us. But, yeah, it's up on.
Ms. Anita, can you clarify that this is not anything that we want to ever arrest any children or anything? This is another avenue by which we can try to find kids and get them back engaged.
Right, exactly. No, we're not trying to arrest people. I'm trying to help parents most of these parents are really and truly trying. But these kids, I mean, it's like 15, 16-year-old boys, and they're bigger than mom, and they're not going to do what mom says. They're going to do what they want to do. And so I need somebody who can go.
Well, they need officers.
And get them. Ma'am?
No, I'm saying they need an officer to come help them get up.
That's right, we do, and thankfully we have some funding that we can partner with the sheriff department. We've met with them, and they're very willing to advertise and give us some help. And
this comes from ESSER funding.
That's right, it comes from ESSER funding. And what I would really like is to get school resource officers, because not during the school day, we'd have to go after school or on like weekends, because they know the kids.
Right.
So that's really what I would like, and so hopefully we'll get some of those to sign up for it. But for instance, I have on my no-show list for this school year, and we're not the only people that are having this problem. It's a nationwide problem. After the pandemic, kids just didn't come back to school, and we can't find them. I have 44 right now on this list in front of me that I cannot find. I have personally called myself, and the numbers don't work. I can't find anybody that knows where they are. I call every number that we have. They're not updated. If I could find these 44 kids and get them back in school, but they know, they know we don't know where they are, you know, so they're doing what they want to do. But if I had somebody to go help me beat the bushes and try to find them and get them back in school, then that would be so helpful. Because I don't know if you know the statistics, but 80% of the people in prison today do not have a high school diploma. There's a direct correlation between truancy and incarceration. So you can do the research yourself, but that's just the way it is. But if you have any questions about truancy or anything that we're trying to do here, this would be a great help to us to have some support from the sheriff department like this.
And one thing that came out of this conversation too was all their help that they're going to give us with the crisis intervention program and the active shooter program.
Exactly. That's right.
The MOU is about the truancy, but it actually is growing that relationship between the entities as well. So. And
the hourly rate that we put on there is the standard hourly rate that they're getting now for detail, like at Walmart or whatever. That's the standard that they're paying them. So that's what they want us to stick with.
With the ESSA money, that's temporary funding.
Yes, ma'am. So what and we talked to the sheriff about that, and that's why he obviously didn't want to go out and hire someone, because if this money, well, we know this money will run out, but what happened with this is if we see, you know, you look at $45 a month, an hour, excuse me, this could be something that could go in the long term, even past ESSER, because this isn't a huge obligation, and I think by that time, within 3 years, we could get this really refined to, you know, it may only be certain times during the year that Miss Anita needs these folks, maybe during the October 1 count, the February 1 count, things of that nature. So we think this is something that could be sustainable even post-ESSER money. But one of the ESSER compliance things in the federal funds was to, because like Miss Anita said, the loss of children not coming back to school after the pandemic has been a nationwide phenomenon, and so one of the things was to partner with entities, and one of the examples was sheriff's departments, to try to regain those so-called lost students.
Can we put something in there that says, because this is tied to ESSER funds, that it will be reviewed before we continue with it?
Well, what it is it's only at the discretion of Miss Anita. So when, if the funding runs out, she would just stop requesting officers. So when they send us a bill, it automatically is pulled out of ESSER. So it's not something that they're automatically going to do.
There's a 30-day termination written in here also, that we just give 30-day notice and it's terminated. So we put that in there. So.
But since we know that the ESSER monies is gonna run out, and we know that we need a truant officer, that we need to assist with paying, to help pay this officer, because we have some major problems with truancy in our parish. We need to, as a board, look at trying to find monies to pay a full-time truant officer, one or two.
Well,
probably.
So there's two big issues, because I don't disagree with you. One big issue is the sheriff's department and all law enforcement officers or offices right now are having trouble getting enough folks just to patrol the streets, and so they did not have extra officers just to put in this role. The other issue I would say is that this isn't going to be always a full-time situation.
As needed.
It's really as needed, and that's why I think it's really going to work well. And it was actually, I think, the sheriff's suggestion, or it may have been your suggestion, Ms. DuBois, to make this more of a duty spot than a full-time 24-hour-a-day job. And so we spoke at length about it, because our initial proffer was a full-time position, but because of their realities and the ESSER money not being there, this was kind of arrived at as the best of what we have.
Yeah, they said there were 8 officers short right now.
Mr. Morris, the social service component of the sheriff department has been dismantled, first of all, right?
Yes, sir.
So they were,
Office of Community Services. That office is no longer there.
Right. So they were doing grants to keep that program running. So one of the things I would sagaciously suggest from us is that we consider our grant writer to look into that while we do have the ESSER money and we're doing it.
3 years gives us a lot of time to plan for post.
Right.
ESSER.
Right. And so I do know that this program is needed. And if we can get a motion, so if there's any further discussion, but we need a motion while we've been discussing it.
I move that we approve the MOU.
Okay. Motion by Ms. Phelps, second by Ms. Palmer. Any further questions or comments concerning?
I just had to ask a quick question in reference to this. Are we having sufficient support from the court system with the?
Yes, ma'am. I'm very good friends with both judges. I actually go to court every month, and every Tuesday and every month. And I'm working with both judges, and they do support us very much. So we all support.
But if you ask anyone in the system, Ms. Doherty, there's multiple issues within the system that make it difficult to enforce, because number one, we don't want to throw people in jail for any of this stuff, but you have to have some sort of mechanism to hold people accountable. So whether it's the threat of that, which again, we're not in that business, or a fine, but even the collection of fines is incredibly difficult. And when you talk about juveniles, we talk about a lot of our juveniles getting in trouble and all these things, but unless a juvenile commits an act on the level of something as heinous as murder, there's not beds for those juveniles. They're oftentimes removing one juvenile who's done something pretty heinous to put one who's just done something worse in there. And so, and in the court system, it's having to deal with all that. So I think one of the big things is they've been inundated with more juveniles because now the juvenile age has been increased. And they don't necessarily have the resources at their disposal to address the issue. We talked at length with the sheriff, with the chief of police, and they are all, everyone who's in the system in terms of juvenile justice is experiencing the fact that exponentially the state needs to put more resources in there. Otherwise, we're going to still be kind of spinning our wheels with a lot of this stuff.
We have only 4 beds at Ware. Natchitoches has 4 beds that is allocated to Natchitoches Parish, and they're all full with much more serious things than truancy.
And they're absolutely right, because we had a situation where you had to let an attempted murder situation go to house actual murder.
But the other thing is, we're attempting truancy with the hope that these kids, we can get them in school, get them engaged, and they're not going to have to end up at Ware or DC.
Exactly, and when you start talking about fines and punishment, and you have parents who are trying, that's who it falls back on. So that's a reverse.
That's who you punish the very people that are trying their best.
It's a regressive punishment as well, because typically these are folks who aren't going to be able to pay these fines, and so then you just make life exponentially more difficult.
Well, I mean, and they are trying, but you know, one question, Ms. Anita, we just need to make sure that we have some mechanism in place that this is not a taxi ride every morning.
Oh no, it won't be.
Okay.
Yeah, because sometimes we do have to have enforcement from the courts. We don't have, we're not in a position to do that. And as you say, with the Office of Youth Services, that portion of the social services has no longer acted with the sheriff's office. I think maybe it has to go further than us. Maybe go back to the legislature and look at this. We need to talk to our senators and representatives, because the reality of it is we do have some kids, you hate to say it, you don't want to lock them up, and you know, you hate to see them go to Ware, but some of them have to have some tough love, whatever you want to call it. They need to understand that you need to go to school, you need to get an education, and some parents don't have control. And they don't have the sheriff's office or the courts because there's not sufficient space to house them. We do have troublemaking kids. That's the reality of it. We do have parents that try to control and they don't. We have some parents that don't help the situation. They are more of a, you know, a liability than they are help. So
having a truancy officer is us as a district saying that no child is ever truly lost until we've exhausted every effort.
Well, my first assignment for them is these 44 kids right here. Trying to find these kids. Yeah.
And yes, go ahead.
I'm all for it, but I have to abstain on that, because I don't want them to hit me in my pocket.
We understand.
Yeah, I'm all for it. So, yeah. And I got some other ideas with disability children with me. They go to school fast with me.
Unfortunately, Mr. McQuarrie, that's out of vogue.
After they will be in jail.
I just have to be in jail, that's all I say.
Me too.
Yeah.
Roll call vote.
Mr. Danzy?
Yes.
Mr. McQuarrie?
Abstain.
Mr. Benefield?
Yes.
Mr. Garner?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mrs. Skidrow?
Yes.
Mrs. Broadway?
Yes.
Mrs. McGaskey?
yes.
Mrs. Palmer?
Yes.
Mrs. Phelps?
Yes.
And Ms. Bell?
Yes.
Motion
Thank
passed.
you all. We hope to start this next month. So.
And let me just say this, I would meet Miss Anita coming in and out, doing her job with those kids and things, and we work together, trying to do the best that we can. I will be coming back up there as well with some of those pastors to see what we can do.
Well, I think after the Christmas holiday, we'll
All the help
have a
we can
luncheon
get.
with those pastors with the
Wait.
We've got an item that we need to suspend the rules and add.
I apologize, 5 minutes, I promise. I was so excited about my help.
That's all right.
I forgot to add it to the agenda, but we talked about it. Now I've asked Mr. Coleman to come and just give you a little information if you need to know. Don't worry about it, as it's paying for this. Somebody asked about how is the ESSER money being spent, we're paying for this too. So come on, Mr. Coleman, just kind of tell them about the.
Is this an information report, or is this something we need to act on?
I think this is an act.
It's a new position.
Okay, I make a motion that we add this agenda item.
I'll second.
We need a unanimous,
To add the
to
agenda.
add it to the.
Do I get a second?
We got it, it's been motioned by Mr. Benfield, seconded by Ms. Phelps.
Okay.
Let's get roll call so we can.
Mr. Dancy?
Yes.
Mr. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Benefield?
Yes.
Mr. Garner?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mrs. Gedros?
Yes.
Mrs. Broadway?
Yes.
Mrs. McGaskey?
Yes.
Ms. Palmer?
Yes.
Ms. Phelps?
Yes.
And Ms. Bell?
Yes.
Oh, cool.
Thank you, Ms. Page. What we've got here, our job description for what we've termed an Edgenuity, which is one of the programs we use to help get our kids caught up with one of our online programs for credits where kids are behind. An Edgenuity / dual enrollment facilitator. So what we've had at the high school level is an influx of kids coming into Natchitoches Central for various reasons, some coming back to us from the Natchitoches Virtual Academy, some kids that are transferring into us from out of district and out of state, and a lot of times if those kids aren't coming from a 4x4 block system like what we have, it causes some scheduling issues for us, and it actually puts them at risk for losing some credits that they were previously enrolled in at their previous institution. We've got students who are just behind that we need to get caught up. We also have students that have passed their LEAP assessments, but they've not passed the actual course. And so this is a way for us to have somebody that's actually responsible for that group of students. And when I say that group of students, it's an ever-growing. Each week that group of students grows. And we've been currently using our librarians, one of our desk teachers, to kind of fulfill those roles and provide those those responsibilities for those students. But we're overflowing, and we're inundating. Our librarians are actually not librarians right now. They're tasked with all these other responsibilities, and it's just come to the point where we need a certified person to be able to help us progress monitor those kids, because again, as I stated, they are behind in some cases. We want to get those caught up and ahead. We need somebody that's responsible for their attendance, making sure where they're at physically on our campus, and also, we have a myriad of issues that come up with our technology each and every day. I mean, a kid's working on an iPad and it never fails. There's issues with those things. So we need somebody that can help with that ever-growing population of kids that we have coming back into our school. So, I'm not sure if you have a job description up there.
Yes.
Some of the functions that they're.
It's up there.
Okay, and you can read those, but we anticipate this is not a position that's just going to go away. I mean, we see the need for this long term, and I believe that right now we're proposing to use some of our Title I funds to help pay for this position, so it wouldn't be an extra cost to the board. At the suggestion of Ms. Wright, that's some of the best ways that we can spend our money, our Title I money, is actual people to help us with these kids hands-on each and every day. So
People, not programs.
exactly.
What's the salary would be on that?
It would be a regular teacher's salary schedule. So. And I can answer any questions that you would have about that position. But.
Been offered by Mr. McGuire, seconded by Ms. Phelps. Roll call. Unless any other questions, any other questions or comments?
Anybody have any questions?
What would be the position title?
We termed it a facilitator, an Edgenuity / dual enrollment facilitator.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Roll call.
Mr. Danzy?
Yes.
Mr. Metoyer?
Yes.
Mr. Bitterfield?
Yes.
Mr. Garner?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mrs. Gidros?
Yes.
Mrs. Broadway?
Yes.
Mrs. McGaskey?
Yes.
Mrs. Palmer?
Yes.
Ms. Phelps?
Yes.
And Ms. Belton?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right. Come on here.
I'm not saying.
I want to call everybody that Mr. Watson on his brevity of the meeting tonight.
Well, no. I said no information or report.
Everybody have a Merry Christmas.